30 years ago, this man went missing without a trace, and last month he was found alive and well, but missing his memory for the past 30 years. Let's talk about it. I'm going to preface this and say this takes place in Romania, so my pronunciation is going to be not great. Additionally, all the news sources were in Romanian, so I had to translate them, so apologies if details are a bit wonky. In 1991, the 63-year-old Vasil Gorkos lived in the Romanian commune of Buhoki. He lived on the countryside and sold cattle. Sometimes he would be gone on business for a few days, but he always came back home. That was until one day when he bought himself a train ticket and never came back home. His family spent years looking for him, but eventually they assumed the worst and thought he was dead. Over the years, they held many memorial services for him. Obviously, they reported his disappearance to police, but nothing ever came from that either. That is, until August of 2021, when on a Sunday evening, a car stopped in front of the Gorkos family house. Out of the car stepped a now 93-year-old Vasil, who was cleanly shaven and looked pretty great considering he was 93 years old. He was well kept and obviously had been fed over the years. Witnesses at the scene said somebody else was driving the car, but in all the confusion, they didn't get a license plate or what the person looked like. Vasil was wearing the same trousers that he was wearing 30 years ago and had a train ticket in his pocket from, like you guessed it, 30 years ago. He also had his ID card on him, which listed his address, so somebody probably saw that and took him back home. But that raises a lot more questions. Most notably, where was he for the past 30 years? When reporters asked him where he was, he just replied, quote, "I was home." Now, since the news sources are in Romanian, I found some that say he does remember his family and some that say he doesn't remember them. If he doesn't remember his family or anything from the past 30 years, it's likely he's suffering from some sort of neurological condition. Perhaps Alzheimer's, dementia, or something else that affected his memory. Even if he does have a neurological condition, it doesn't explain where he was for the past 30 years. I'm thinking personally maybe he was at some sort of care home for people with memory issues, but that just doesn't explain why he was there for 30 years and his ID card was in his pocket, they had his address. It's a bit confusing. Some people think maybe he was kidnapped initially and the kidnappers did something that messed with his memory, but again, that was for 30 years. It would be a pretty long, intense kidnapping, or at least it just doesn't add up. It's a very strange story. Like I said, he was in great health considering he was 93 years old, and just seemed like he was at someone's house this entire time, which is even stranger. This is a super ongoing case. I'll link the source that I found information from, which was from Reddit, but most other sources are in Romanian, unfortunately. Let me know in the comments what you think happened. This story is too strange not to discuss.